There you guys go.
Beautiful. Thank you. I'm not sure what's going on my computer right now. At any rate, um, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Today we'll be discussing the effect that conflict has on the leadership process. I am but one of three my group members. I'll kick things off by introducing myself. I am Brian Bottoms. I'll let my other colleagues introduce themselves.
My name's
Go
Tim
ahead, Tim.
Rutz. My name's Tim Rutz.
And I'm Cheryl Van Gordon.
And today we have joining us, we have Mr. Sam Van Gordon and Mr. Alvin Rains. Thank you for taking time out of your weekend to do this with us. If you would just kind of just briefly introduce yourselves. Where do you work? What do you like to do? That sort of thing. Sam, we'll just kick things off with you.
Hi, my name is Sam Van Gordon. I am a manager, area maintenance manager for Amazon at ND1 location. We are a traditional sortable, a little bit older building with a little bit older conveyance. We're a fulfillment center. So if you get an order, we put it in the box, send it out to the delivery stations. In my free time, I like to go skydiving with my wife, ride motorcycles. And if you don't know, we have a baby on the way. So
Awesome.
Congratulations.
Adventure seekers.
Right. Skydiving. Hope she's not skydiving while she's
no, she gave it up, so she had to stop.
I've been grounded since October.
You get back out there though.
Maybe next year.
Mr. Alvin Rains, tell us a little about yourself, please. You would?
Yeah. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
You're good.
Gotcha.
Alvin Rains, I work at Subaru of Indiana Automotive. I've been out there about going on 17 years. I started out as an associate and just worked my way up gradually. I'm now currently a group leader in the paint shop. And been a group leader for about 6.5 years, going on 7 years. What I do for fun is just, spend time with family. I'm a minister at my church, so I enjoy ministering and serving the community.
Awesome. Just to kick things off then, what inspired you to be in a leadership position?
Okay, what inspired me pretty much was just having a career. Just pretty much didn't y'all know as well as I know. Those of you who work out at Subaru, working on that line can be very hard on your body, right? So as I was getting older, I recognized that's not something I really wanted to do long term. So I decided to do the same thing you guys are doing, is going back to school, and I was able to get my OLS degree in organizational leadership supervision. So that's what motivated me, just to use my mind instead of my body.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that.
Yes, same here.
Yeah, I got in the management position, basically kind of the same thing. I knew that eventually as a technician in maintenance, I was going to be getting wore out and wouldn't be able to walk around as well. I do like taking care of people, making sure they're all right. So it kind of was a logical step forward. With Amazon, we have lots of other pathways we could take, but I definitely figured getting the people management position was more of a better fit for myself, and then trying to move forward with that.
Sure. So Sam, when you hear, when you think of conflict, what kind of thing pops into your mind? What do you think of when you hear conflict?
I mean, you have different levels of conflict. So obviously there's like crazy levels where it shouldn't be allowed, could be, possibly violent. And then you have just your general conflict that most of us, I'm assuming, deal with on a daily basis, where it's either policy issues or internal issue amongst your team where they're having an issue they need to deal with, or even issue amongst two people that you just sort out. That's my general consensus of conflict. It's a pretty broad verbal word that could be used for many
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
no,
would
man.
agree with.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I would agree with Sam. It doesn't mean always something negative. Of course, when we say conflict, you always think the negative side of it. But some conflict is good. If everyone thought alike, um, we wouldn't we wouldn't get anything done. Sometimes you need those devil advocates to jump in and say, "Hey, I don't think that's going to work," and then that becomes conflict. Doesn't mean that it's bad, but it definitely means something that you need to hash out and work out, whether you accommodate or you compromise. But either way it goes, doesn't mean that it's bad.
Yeah, that's a great answer.
Yeah, basically, yeah. We've been discussing that a lot in our class, and I know I personally I have a negative connotation of conflict. I think of people arguing, and that's not nearly always the case. But as far as Alvin, you mentioned accommodating, compromising. Do you find yourself relying on one of these the Thomas Kilman modes of conflict is something we really discussed in our class, as far as avoiding, accommodating, competing, compromising, and collaborating. Is there one that you tend to rely on more than others, would you say?
That's a good question. Every situation is different, so you just have to recognize what situation and what circumstance you're faced. I would probably say accommodating, especially out at Subaru, just in the role that I'm in as a group leader out there. You're pretty much like a servant leader. So of course you can't accommodate every situation. The more you work with your, one thing I try not to do is avoid conflict. That just brings on more conflict. If you avoid it and you don't deal with it face value, it's just going to bring on more conflict. So you have to address it, no matter how difficult the situation may be, how uncomfortable the conversation might end up being. You still have to deal with it. So try my best not to avoid it. That's the most important thing. Just deal with it. Yeah, you might have to compromise and accommodate, but that's part of it. But collaboration is another one. You said that's the ideal way. We want every party to collaborate together to come up with the best solution.
Definitely.
Yeah, I
Sam,
definitely.
what you?
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm just going to ask you the same thing.
Yeah, I'd basically say the same thing. Between compromise and collaboration, are kind of where I would drift when it comes to conflict. Obviously, as Alvin says, if you ignore it, it just makes matters worse, and then people tend to think you don't care. So that's definitely a bad position you want to get yourself in when you're a manager. Yeah, I mean, you got to, like you said earlier, you got to lead with that empathy and make sure that people know that you care about their decisions, their day-to-day life, their work-life balance. So whenever we would run into a conflict, if it's either between two associates or amongst a policy that was enacted, we try to definitely figure out the reason, the justification behind the policy. Obviously there's non-negotiables when it comes to some of that, so you can't really compromise on like policy changes for like safety, et cetera, et cetera. But definitely amongst our shop or our group of people, collaborating and compromise is really where we go with our lot of our conflict resolutions.
Yeah. And that's ideally that's where we'd like to go, is collaborate. It's not always going to be the case, obviously, but it's ideal. How important would you say it is to have conflict management training, or any kind of experience in dealing with conflict as a leader?
I think is very important. The reason being is you're always going to have some sort of conflict. It's inevitable. It's going to come. And if you do not know how to handle the situation, you're always going to fail. So I think most organizations, even outside of getting your certificate, associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, even outside of that, I think every company should invest in some type of program where they continual training for conflict or any type of training that's going to continue to better you as a manager.
Yeah, conflict resolution is definitely important. It's good training to have if it's either company sponsored or something that you can springboard off of, like YouTube or whatever, just to kind of keep your feet wet, keep you energized in the conversation that you have. Because the moment you stop talking, it becomes a problem. Um, Definitely, just training in general is good, but definitely not shying away from conflict when you actually have it. Because if you don't get into those situations, you will never learn. And even if you fail at it, obviously it's a great learning experience to move forward and just be like, okay, I failed. And then having a good support group as a manager, like a good boss, a good like HR department, safety department, whatever you have, it's nice to have an ear with everybody so that you can go to forward in conflict as a group, as opposed to having just you against everybody else, or you against the one person, or everybody else and against you. It's better just to be able to work on it as a group, and then that way it's evenly applied across the board with everybody.
Hmm. Um, I think you touched on something that's very important there, is the way that your workplace figures in to how we deal with conflict, and work culture is a big thing. How important that to you to have that, or how do you think that defines how you resolve conflict, the work culture that's around you? But how do you think that plays a role?
With my work culture, I'm always talking to people. Like that's kind of my job. Like if I'm either talking to my associates that I have underneath me, or even since I'm in maintenance, the operational side of the business, I am talking to everybody. Like every night I'm walking around, I'm talking to everybody. Like there's time to do paperwork and there's time not to do paperwork. So if you're able to walk around and you have that open dialogue with everybody, the work environment that you're in is much easier to handle because you have people there who know you and are willing to back you up and are willing to also communicate with you more openly. So that reduces your conflict, along with when conflict does arise, you're able to be open and straightforward with people and they don't take offense to it.
Hey, can you ask that question again, please?
Work culture. How important is it to have, or how important is work culture, or what role does it play in how you manage the conflict that arises around you?
I think culture and work culture is very important. Again, most of you work at Subaru, so you know that we have a culture where we have AR reps, um, and they play a big role in conflict. So whenever you have a situation that I try myself to handle all conflict on my level, where we don't even have to get the AR rep involved. However, some things are so difficult with the policies and the procedures, depending on the situation. You have to get the AR rep involved. But I think it's very important to know the culture where you work at, really get involved with it, know the policies, know the procedures, because it can get really messy if you don't know the rules and regulations. And then you're making decisions based off your own desires or your own wishes, and it can be totally against the policy and the procedure. So knowing the culture is very important.
Tim, Shirley, do you have any questions for our guests?
I thought all those responses are really good, especially talking about culture. Going around and making your rounds on the floor and talking to people, I found that in my own personal experience that often works well and can kind of predict conflicts that may occur, or you may get a start on a conflict that may arise. I think knowing the culture and, like Alvin said, like understanding procedures and understanding the policies around you are very important in order to make decisions not based off of just guesses. It's based off of fact, and that definitely is helpful when it comes to preventing conflict or understanding how that plays a role in it. As far as any questions or anything else, I have a whole list of questions here that I can ask, but scrolling through it, I guess a lot of stuff has already been talked about. I guess maybe you guys could answer like another strategy that you would have, practical strategy, when it comes to addressing conflicts, resolving disagreements or tension. How can we do this in a constructive manner? And maybe you guys could elaborate a little bit more on that.
I can give you an example of a conflict that I had here recently, and how we handled it and resolved the situation. Um, so at Subaru, we have what you call standard work. And with the standard work, every first shift and everyone that does that job has to do the job the exact same way. But it's also the same way on both shifts. So you have to have both shifts on board. And the problem that we ran into is first shift did it one way and second shift did it another way. Doesn't mean that first shift was right and second shift was wrong or vice versa. However, that's a conflict because we have to be on the same page. So it was very difficult because, of course, you're on two totally different shifts. So you just have to make meetings. You have to leave good communication and emails, and we ran trials. So what we did was, okay, I'm not saying that our way is best, so we tried second shift's way, and at the same time we tried theirs, they tried the way we did it, and then you had to communicate with each other, get the associates involved, ask the associates which way do you like better, and it worked out good for us because everyone on first shift liked the way second shift did it better. So it was easy for us to say, okay, we like the way you guys do it better. We'll just do it your way. And it worked out perfect. Um, the problem is when it doesn't work out so perfect. Well, that first shift still says, we like the way we do it better. And then
Yeah.
second shift say, we like the way we do it better. So then at that point, somebody just has to make a decision. But in that situation, it worked out perfect because we was able to compromise and say, hey, we like the way or accommodate. Um, and compromise. I guess we will have to say compromise as well. But it worked out perfect. So that would be an example of conflict that I recently had to deal with.
That's a great answer, and I can really relate to that. First of all, it's good to see you, and me working in paint shop all those years. I totally understand the first shift, second shift, who does it better. And it's sad to say, but there was a lot of times being on second shift that we had great ideas and they just first shift wasn't willing to even listen to what we were doing. And I can understand how things can really get out of hand, even with work instructions, someone being left-handed as opposed to being right-handed, that can all play a factor too. So it's kind of like has to really be studied. And that's a great story of how you guys came together and found that second shift was doing it a different way, and you kind of compromised and accommodated to their work instructions, and was a collaborative effort. So that's a great answer. Thank you. Oh, we got another person joining.
Yeah. All right. No. Stop. Sorry.
Yeah, just to kind of go
No, it's
off
okay. It's okay.
what was said earlier, that collaboration, when you have a conflict, it definitely helps. So we had a little bit of a safety issue a couple days ago. Like I said, the open dialogue that I've had with everybody in my shop on my team, one of my guys actually was the safety issue. They did something silly and it happens. So, but I was able to just actually sit down and talk to them, get their side of the story, and then I have to push it up the chain of command because of Amazon being such a large corporation. We can't just make decisions on our local level. That has to be spread across the network. So that's kind of something that's a little bit different than Subaru. Coming from Subaru, I understand that you are just building base, but we're network based, and that's here nor there, just the way it is. So they can't apply one way for one building and then apply another way for another building. They have to kind of keep it across the network. So like I said, it was just one of those things where we filled out the paperwork and handed it off and like, okay, we'll see what happens. And unfortunately, that's kind of where the decision ends, our local level.
Yeah.
Awesome. I had almost forgotten that at Subaru there is that first shift, second shift. There's that rivalry there.
Oh yeah.
And
It's
and
everywhere.
yeah, it's
It's-
definitely no matter where you go. And it's
Yeah.
the competing conflict.
It's every
Exactly.
department.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like Tim
So I
said,
do
we
have
all
a. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
I was gonna say I do have a question. You both have shared recent interactions with conflict. How would you say you guys have learned how to handle that? Do you have formal training in conflict, or just through experience, or both?
For me, both. This class that you're taking, conflict class, I've taken that class, and most of it just came from experience, hands-on experience. That's these classes that you're taking in OLS. They are great, and they're going to benefit you. You're not going to remember all of it. When I seen the email that Brian sent out, it kind of just made me smile because I was like, I remember taking this class. But most of it comes from just experience. And you're going to make mistakes. We're not perfect, and it's just a growing thing where you might make a decision and you look back and think like, yeah, that wasn't the best decision. And you learn from it. Hopefully, you learn from it. But you should learn from every decision and every mistake that you make, whether it's good or bad. You should learn from it. But most of it comes from experience. Just that hands-on, being on the floor, interacting with people, communicating. Yeah, it's just experience.
Yeah, that's pretty spot on. My opinion, because I've been in the actual title management position for like 3 months now. So I'm pretty new in my role, but I also came from another leadership position. I was a team leader at Subaru before I went to Amazon. And also I was a team leader at Amazon as a technician before I became a manager. So therefore I was already in that role when it came to the conflict. And then past life, I dealt with conflict as a former jobs. But so a lot of it is experience when it comes to it and actually finding the right way to go forward. And as Alan says, it definitely, if you don't learn from every situation, you're not doing it right, in my personal opinion. No matter how good or how well it flows through, you can always improve. So like my last safety issue, like our local safety team was really pushing hard to do some things. I'm like, that's not how we do it. And they were pushing back like, that is how we do it. So it was nothing on the associate's fault or my end, but basically I had to retrain the safety associate that how Army handles something. Army's our maintenance department, sorry. So it's a little bit different than